facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of The Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. Really, really happy and grateful that you would join me today with the most incredible Ann Cueva, the one of my favorite people in the world. And we're going to be talking about Make a Plan While You Can and Grief Without Chaos, her book. And before that, we're going to take a little mini vacation, a little breathing exercise, 22 seconds to just settle down, just be. And we're going to breathe in calm for 7 seconds. We're going to hold for 4 seconds, and we're going to breathe out gratitude for 11 seconds. So let's do that. Let's just kind of get grounded here. Ready? Everybody, breathe in for 7 seconds, calm. Here we go. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Take time to be still and know. Listen to yourself, listen to the spirit, listen to the still small voice, and that's what we can do whenever we're feeling stressed or whatever. So now is the time to realize that that's an important thing. So here we are. It's the day before, it's July 3rd, 2024, the day before 4th of July. So I'm a little patriotic today because I love it. I love my country. And I'm also traveling, and we've got at my sister's house and trying to take care of her over here in Tennessee. And she's got a doggy. So we'll see how that works. So Ann Cueva, so we're on Win Win Women TV, and an amazing platform directed to women by women, and of course men as well. Not as hosts but as guests, but primarily for women to have a platform. It's an amazing platform for all of us. And Ann being another show host. What's the name of your show, Ann? Then we'll get to you.
It's called Prep Talk, Custom Organizing. Prep Talk, Custom Organizing.
Custom Organizing. Yes. So, oh well, it's live TV, right? So thank you for your being my guest today, and we're going to share this. It's on all over the globe, right? So we're all over the place. So Ann Cueva, we've met, and this is our third time now, I think, to have a try the show. And so a third time's a charm, and I'm so grateful that it finally is coming together. And as you tell people who you are and who, a little bit about you, I'm going to step away for just a moment so I can see if I can put doggy away.
Oh, okay. No problem. Well, thank you for having me, Charlotte. It's always to do fun things with you. And my name is Ann Cueva, and I live in Clearwater, Florida, and I have been a professional organizer for the past 30 plus years. I started out doing kitchens and homes and closets and getting all that organized, and just loved doing it because I had an aunt one day that said to me, "You're always helping people do this. Why don't you find a way to get paid for it?" And I remember thinking, who would pay me to do this? But back then we didn't even know what a professional organizer was. And I thought, well, how do I get started? And so I found there was a Woman's Day magazine that had come in the mail, and I had just left my friend Janine's house. We had organized her kitchen, and in the magazine was another organizer. Her name of her store was Cross It Off Your List in New York City. And so I got her name and number out of the magazine, and I called her and I said, "How did you start your business? What do you call yourself?" And she said, "A professional organizer." And so that's how I started my organizing business. At the time, it was called the National Association of Professional Organizers that I joined, and just found out there was a whole nother little world out there of people who thought like I did. So it was very exciting. And then, of course, as everyone knows how the organizing industry has grown over the past 30 years. It's just been amazing. And as we get busier, in our lives and lives get crazier, it's really important. And I found about 7 years into my business that paperwork is something that everyone struggles with. It's just, it's coming at us constantly. You have to make decisions about paperwork. Some people even throw their finances in with their paperwork, and it just becomes kind of like a big mess. And who wants to work with all that? Not fun. So anyway, I found, in fact, I always tell the funny story that I was working with a client, and we were in her kitchen, and we were standing up on the kitchen counter, and we were working on the pot shelves that were above in her kitchen. And all at once she said, "Oh my goodness, what time is it?" And I said, "Well, I looked at my watch, and I said, it's 4:15. And she goes, I gotta go. And I said, "Well, should I go? I didn't know what was happening." And she said, "No, if I don't pay my power bill by 5 o'clock today, they're going to shut off my power." And so and I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right." So she flew out the door. And right then I started thinking, because the way my brain works is, when I see things like that happen, how can I fix that? How can we not let that happen anymore? So at that point, I realized, okay, I think that we need to, and the woman had the means to pay the bill. It was just that she didn't pay it. And so I thought, okay, so that led me down the path of working with people with their paperwork. And it's so life-changing, and it's so helpful. My family are mainly nurses and doctors, and I did not get that gene at all. I can give someone a Band-Aid. I tell them that's the extent of my nursing degree. If there's blood or liquid stuff involved, don't have me in there. So anyway, but I felt good because when I could work with someone with their paperwork and bring order into their life and some peace, and remove the craziness out of their life, it was a good feeling that I had helped them mentally and psychologically and things like that. So that's what drove me to keep doing my business. I love what I do. It's just been so helpful. And like I said, then through the years, I've worked with corporations and companies, because there was a time there where people were before pre-COVID, they were sending people home to work, and they would send them home with everything they needed except how to get organized. So I did a lot of work with companies, that worked remotely and things like that. So, but it's very rewarding to me to be able to know that when you need something, that panic doesn't have to set in of, where do I find that paper? And it's just a matter of setting up simple systems that work for you. And I tell people, when you're trying to get organized, don't throw perfectionism out the window, because I'm a perfectionist. And in fact, the first 3 days I had my business, I said, "This is ridiculous." I was trying to make it look like everything was all good. And I thought, first of all, that's not me, because I'm an open book. I'll tell anybody anything that they want to know if I think it'll help them. But I think people associate the word organized with being perfect, and that's far from the truth. And I think that as long as you have a system that works for you, that when you go to find things, you can find it. If your time management is better working for you by having a paper calendar versus a digital calendar on your phone, go what's right for you. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So all kind of ways that you can bring peace into your life, and to, just get rid of the chaos. And I think that working with paperwork for all these years, I do believe that's the foundation of getting organized, because when we go to bed at night, and again, now everything is digital, but when we used to get all of our paper bills, people would lay in bed at night and go, "Oh, did I pay the power bill? Where is the power bill? Did I write on the back of that envelope and then throw that envelope away?" I mean, it was just a vicious cycle that people go in with paperwork. And so I just found that by honing in on that and saying, okay, when you get your bills, have a place, for them. Because I guess it mentioned earlier, paperwork and financial bills and the financial paperwork is completely separate entity from paperwork in general. So I think that makes it easier for people they don't have all their bills in with all their other paperwork, so that's a good tip. You can, if you are that way, just separate the two right away, and that'll be a good start for you. But
when I was talking about informational paperwork, I was like, okay, before internet, I wrote some stuff for kids, advice, I was like, okay, separate things that come in into, I'm going to get arrested if I don't do this, or, I'm homeless if I don't do this, and everything else. Yes. Information is what, piles up: the magazines, the catalogs, the newspapers, right, the inserts, all of those things, unless it has if it has an action step, a date due, that goes in one pile, and another pile So everything, and I honestly, when I was a brand new newlywed, we had a room that all, we got rolled up newspapers, and it got to where we would just open the door of this spare room and throw, we'll read this later, we'll read this later.
Yes.
And then when we had a son on the way and we had to clean that out for the baby's room, we were like, oh my gosh, it had a bulldozer to come in. And, we wanted to read all of it. We wanted to, but
Exactly.
we never do. And I think there's the secret that I have discovered for me, not that I do it, but and the reason I think people don't do better at organizing partly and are going back and getting things done is because everything in that room or everything in the attic or everything that needs to be gone through is looking backwards.
Yes.
I'm always looking at the next thing. I want to do the next thing.
Yes.
I don't, and to stop and have to deal with the past, which a lot of that is really, and it's a weight. It's this piece of your life that eventually has to be dealt with. It's not conscious most of the time, but then it's baggage.
Right. It really is. And and like you say, it's always in the back of our mind. I have to do that. I know I need to do that, but we keep putting it off. And I always say, when you find yourself saying, oh, I'll do that later never comes, because there's going to always be something else that will fill that time. And then by the time you do get to what you want to do, who wants to do it anyway? You'll like, people will say, I will clean my house before I have to go in and do what I need to do. And they hate cleaning, but they will, they just have a tendency to put it off. And
the other trigger words for me, I had just for now, I'm going to put here just for now.
Oh,
yep.
okay.
Oh my gosh, just for now. It's still on the refrigerator 5 years later because it's like I'll get this, and they don't move it. And that was a huge piece to one of my marriages. I'm like, don't ever say just for now. No.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're lying to yourself and to me.
Right. So. Yeah. Oh, I know. It's funny how we all do, but I can tell you, if you do take time that, because a lot of people will say to me, well, I want to be organized and I've tried it before and it didn't work. And 2 rules of thought there. Number one, I tell people, if you want to begin to get organized, start with the number one thing that's driving you crazy. And it can be something very little or very big. It's just if you go, everything drives me crazy, then just take one, take like 5 Post-it notes or index cards and write your 5 things and turn them over. And then, where you can't read them, and then just pick one and start with that. Or you can prioritize by that, because a lot of times if you see it visually, what your 5 things are, you can go, oh no, that's not, and it'll help you prioritize. But the thing is, just start. And then once whatever's driving you crazy about your number one thing, once you find a little fix for that, and it feels so good when you don't have that little irritating thing happen anymore, it's just the peace starts. And it's like, oh, okay, I get this, and that's why I tell people that when they take care of one thing that's really bothering them, and whatever it was that drove them crazy, like I just said, that all at once it's like, oh my gosh, that felt so good. And that's the moment you want to capture and think, if I just keep doing this like this, then I can, eventually get all this out of my life. And it just works. It really does. And again, I think, like you say, do what it works for you. If you look at other people who are doing something and they go, oh, I got organized, I did this, and I bought up my pretty little planner, or I used my phone and all this for this and that. If that doesn't work for you, just make up your own system, but have a system, and have a system that works for you. So I think
getting that system is I don't know, priceless, right? I mean, and I think that we think it's hard to get a system too. And I'm as guilty as anybody. There's so much that I want to get through and go through. But what I know that when, for instance, one room is done, I will just go and bask in that room,
Oh, yes.
And every time I walk by, I go, oh, and if your counters, you remember the fly lady, if your sink the place is a mess, but your sink is clean.
Yes.
Empty.
Yes.
You can bask and celebrate the small.
That's right. That's
small,
very true.
Wins like
yes, that. Yes. Fly lady. She has so many good things and they're simple. I think we try to make it harder than what it is. So just keep it simple. And
we complicate it, don't we?
Oh, big time. Because we think, oh, I know it needs to be this. And then, like I said, we throw perfectionism in there, and you don't need to do that. Just pat yourself yourself on the back for what you've done for you. So that's
Yeah, I know that I'm always on to the next thing, and don't take time to capture the win, so that I think that's, celebrate it. And I don't, not party, but hey, wow, enjoy the moment and take time to enjoy it. So I want to ask you though, because when we met and you have a book called Grieve Without Chaos.
Yes.
And it's a workbook.
Correct.
About make a plan while you can.
Yes.
And I think this is what we really want to focus on, because I'm living proof
Absolutely, you are.
that it's important. Have I done it? No. Do I need to do it? Yes, I do. And so, but I gave all my sisters for our Christmas or last year, I gave all my sisters, all three of them, this book. And then we're going to start your little 4-week course on that. And we did that January. We started, I think we were on the first and second week of January.
Yes, exactly.
My younger sister, Marcia, was on the call. She at least listening in, and she said some steps towards doing your homework. And which is very cool. Well, I'm in her house, and so we're going to circle back to that in a minute. My oldest sister, Shirley, had a last minute thing, but was very interested in trying to do this. Now she has people anyway. She had so she had a successful business, and she had people that knew most of where things were for her.
Right.
And the second week of January, she died. And so it was, this grief without chaos, this idea of being organized so that your family doesn't have to scramble and deal and the hardest time in their lives to have to find things that are hard to find.
Exactly.
So you have written a workbook to help people go through that and simplify. So moving on, here I am a little bit later, Marcia, my youngest sister that was on the calls. Had an aneurysm on Mother's Day weekend last couple months ago. I'm in her house now, but she's a walking, talking miracle, because how many people don't survive those? And so we're in this conversation, and ironically or not, right? So Anne is my guest this week to talk about this again. And Marcia was going to try and be a cameo guest today because it's her home, but she had to go to the doctor and isn't here. But isn't it interesting that here we start this process and, it's really in my face. We've got to do something and make it simpler and easier for our family. And one of the first things is probably passwords, right? So
yes. Oh, yes. Well, and I'll tell you why I even wrote the book is back in 2003, my 17-year-old son, David, died suddenly. And we have no idea to this day what it was. We ended up donating his heart to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And he's still in a gene pool of studies that they told me one day they may call me to never give up hope, but it was a perfectly healthy heart that just stopped. So we know it was electrical part of the heart because he was in the same room with my husband, John, at the time. And he didn't gasp for air. He didn't suffer. He was talking 1 minute and a minute later he was gone. So, getting that call. I was over in Orlando at the time with my mother and sister celebrating my sister's birthday. And there I was in Disney World, the happiest place on earth, and had to get that call that I needed to come home right away, that something had happened to David. So I went to the emergency room that night. We got there about 2 a.m. And you're anyone that was gone through that, you know how your mind is. And so I remember there was one of the nurses there. She came up to me, and we'd been there about an hour and a half now, but they were wanting to do tests on him, trying to find what the cause of death was, and so to speak. So I remember the nurse handing me a packet over his body. He was laying, on the gurney, and this nurse hands me a packet and says, "Okay, you're going to need to start planning his funeral tomorrow." And at that point, it's just like in the movies, everything stopped. I could see her lips moving, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. And that always stands out as such a horrible memory for me. So he was 17, so if he had been 18, it would have even been a whole nother story and even more chaotic. But because I was organized and I had most of my kids' stuff in order, as we had to pull things, like the funeral home gave us a list of things we needed to bring and, you know, all that stuff. So matter of fact, my sister went and got the things. And when she went back to the funeral home, the funeral director said, in all my years of doing this, I've never had anybody bring me the things I asked it on the first call, you know? So she said, well, my sister's an organizer and she had all this, you know, in place. So, but then about, let's see, it was in 2014, my mother passed away, and 3 months later, my mother-in-law passed away. So we had these two deaths back to back. Now my mother had lung cancer, so we kind of knew that was happening. But also I want to say, after David died, my family, we got everything. We bought our niches that we're going to be, you know, our bodies would be placed in. We started a plan, because let me tell you, funerals and caskets and everything else, it is not cheap. And so on top of grieving, you get hit with all these other things that come along with it. It's just horrible. So, and what happened, let me back up here a minute. So my mom died, and we had everything pretty much done. She had a will. We knew what was going to happen after she died. But my mother-in-law, she had a TIA and fell down the steps outside her house, hit her head. And 2 days later, she was in a coma. And 5 days later, she passed away. And for years, she always told everyone that she kept the will in the third drawer in the living room of the buffet in there. None of us ever checked. We never looked. But when she died, we all went there to look to see where the will was. And guess what? No will. So to make a long story short, about 2 months and $8,000 later, just with attorney's fees, trying to get all the information that we needed, we found it. So at that point, being an organizer, I thought, okay, all of this was chaotic and didn't need to be, because my definition of being organized is being in control of what you can be in control of. Every one of the things those people asked us for, we could have been in control of those. So I decided I don't want this to happen to anyone else. So I came up with this workbook. It's the basics. It's not a long, drawn out workbook that you need, but it's what you would need, the vital information should there be an emergency. And I don't relate this just for death. This is not just a book for dying or when you die. It's for if something happens to you and you can't speak, this book speaks for you. Because you write your wishes in there. Because let's say you had a stroke and you couldn't speak and people were wanting to know all this stuff. Well, that's so frustrating, not only for your relatives or your loved ones or your caregiver, but for you, because you're trying to talk, you're trying to say these things. So it has all your section for banking information, who to call if something happens to you, your passwords. The number one tip you can take away from this is make sure somebody else has the password to your computer and your phone. Those two things if you just can get that done, you're way ahead of the game, because I hear story after story of, the things that happen. We had a friend of mine shared a story with me that the husband went to bed with his wife, and they woke up the next morning and she had passed, and he was trying to call her sister and he couldn't get into her phone because it was at the time where you used your fingerprint, and the EMT that was there said, you know what, she's here, let's go ahead and put her finger on it. And that's how they got into her phone. So, and when all that's going on, and so my goal as an organizer is I just want to remove the chaos from the grief, because it'd be so much easier if that woman had said to me, oh, you're going to go home and need to plan his funeral with that booklet that she handed me. Now, and my vision was to make that vision better, is to go, here's a book that I put together. And if you will just break it down and get the vital information in there, it's just so important, because I think every day there are people, like I do Monday, the workshops that Charla was talking about is the first 4 Mondays of every month from 7 to 8. I have a workshop via Zoom that I break the book up into sections. So you have a whole week to complete a section, but by the end of the month, you have the majority of the book completed. And the part that isn't completed is that you go to an attorney and get your will or update your will. And the things that we have discovered, even in the workshop, workshops that people don't think of, or the stories that they share, that, we just don't think about these things that are going to happen. And some people say, well, I don't care if I die or something happens to me. I won't know about it, so I don't have to worry about it. Well, someone has to worry about it, and it's going to be your loved ones. And like in your example here, at least your sister Shirley had someone that took care of those things. So a lot of it, you were able to get the information from, but a lot of times
her daughters, that I think it helped a lot that they had the person, her assistant and her friend
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
And
yeah.
Marcia, she had started all this, but
Mhm.
she was in the hospital for 6 weeks, right? And now she's doing great, and on
That
that
is so
really road to
wonderful.
probably 100% recovery, or very close.
Gosh,
She had
that
some
is a
brain
miracle.
strokes as well, so there's all kind of brain, surgeries and stuff, but she's doing amazing. But that first week or so, nobody,
Oh,
we didn't know.
right,
And
right.
we just don't know. So, and we never know. It's
Right.
not in our hands. And that's
Right.
why it's time. I think it's important that we, consider those that will be left behind. It's not about me being
Absolutely.
gone. I'm like, oh, I'm dancing with angels. I've got all
Right.
privilege. I'm happy. I'm good.
Exactly.
But those left behind, that have to deal with not just grief, but
Right.
sadly, it's the systems aren't very helpful. They're
Mhm.
the systems out there, the death systems, or whatever you want to call
Right.
it, the
Right.
legal systems,
Exactly.
they're not on your side.
No,
And
and it doesn't move
it's
quickly. It does
and
not
in
move
this
quickly.
litigious
Yeah.
society, there's so much that we just don't have
Right.
access to,
Right.
or whatever. And so I think that this workbook, Grief Without Chaos, and I'm really grateful that you were able to join me. We did a great show in November, but it didn't get recorded. And then so speaking of all this, you were going to come on maybe a month ago.
Yes.
And
Yes.
on the way home, you were in a
Well, a
wreck
neighbor had
before
asked
the
me if I
show.
would.
And
Yes. I would have
and
a
so
small hit and
I'm not
run.
laughing because everybody was okay. It's
Oh,
just
yes.
like the
Yes. But you
irony of
never
all of
know.
that.
That's right.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of other resources, right? So, I mean, my daughter gave me this. Mom,
Oh,
tell me the
yes.
story.
Yes.
I haven't done it, of course, but
Right.
anyway,
And
so
that's the thing, that is why I started the workshops, because as I would work with my clients, and I would see they had books like this, but no one was filling them out. So that's why I started the workshops. And then a lot of times people too, is they don't want to do it because oh, if I talk about it, I'm going to die, or someone's going to die. And that was me. I would never talk about death, because sure enough, if I talk about it, I know someone's going to die. Well, we weren't talking about death, and it happened. So that's why I try to tell people. And one of the beautiful things that I love about it is when people start filling out this workbook, or any workbook that you want to put your vital information in, the peace that comes over you, and you feel so much better. You feel in control. You feel it's just something we know we should take care of. But again, like organizing, we don't want to do it, or we'll do it later. And like we said, we never know what a day will bring. So it's just, I
the
mean,
burden is lifted, and you've got that peace of mind is critical, I think. But and honestly, I can speak to the other side of that. We
mhm.
started talking about it, and my sister died.
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't
oh,
feel
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so. Do I blame this for that? No, I don't.
Right.
But there might be people that would. But
Good
I don't.
point.
I
Good
think
point.
I'm in the opposite side of that. We were talking about it. We did give the book, and we did have a conversation around
Yeah.
it. And Marcia was filling hers out, and we did, put all that on hold and
Right.
trying to revisit. So, but it's not. I don't believe that's the reason that those things
Right.
happen. Right? It just happened to be
Exactly.
interesting
Right.
timing. So, I'm not just when I've thought about that. I was like, did us talking about it cause her to die?
Yeah,
No,
well, and that's a good point. I'm glad you
no.
brought that up, because I think we just need to look at, again, pat yourself on the back, all three of you, Shirley, Marcia, and yourself, for starting that, you were on the right path of getting it to help your loved ones, because it's really a love letter that you can give to others. But again,
I have another sister, Joyce, and they seem to have already done most of this stuff. So that's why they weren't more
fantastic.
interested in joining in the call, but
Oh, no,
they
yes.
were, so they felt confident that they had most of that covered. So I'm certainly hope so for them, but we're in, we're all, we're just all out here trying to get along and trying to do the best we can and trying to bless people as best we can. And things happen.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's so important too, to have the conversation with your family, because it's that matter of fact, they have these parties now that have started over in England, and it's called, no, I'm blank on it now. Let's have a party, I think, or something, but it's where you get the family together and you talk about what are your wishes if something happened to you. And they don't even really so much use the word death, but they say, if something happened to you. And I like that. And they said, some people, they don't want to do it, or, this, but they said by the end of it's actually turns into a party, because they're like, oh, will you leave that to me? I've always loved that chair you have. And no, I wanted that chair, thinking that, but they get all that stuff straightened out. So
ahead of time.
Yes. And that's what this book is before, not after something happens, it's before. And I think, and too, it opens up a lot of information for people. They'll say, I have a will. And they'll say, I look back at my will and it was done, 15, 20 years ago. And the people that I was leaving things to, or what I had wanted, they aren't even around anymore, so it's good.
I have a question about that, because
Yes.
I made a will when my children were young with the man I was married to, and I'm not certain that it's ever been updated. I mean, is it still effective?
If that's your only will,
and all those kind of things. That's a question, an important question, because if it's never been undone,
right,
subsequently done, would that mean his 3 kids get
well, let me tell you,
kids and his 3 kids? It could come to that.
yes, absolutely it could. There was a family that, and this is really horrible, but it happened. At the funeral, the man had remarried, and at the funeral, the ex-wife came in and had there was no other wills that were on, the man didn't have a will except when he was married to his first wife. And it said the house would go to her. And so they had it all checked out, and legally they had all the attorneys look at everything. And that ex-wife, the ex-wife got the house. The current wife, who they had been married, I think, 3 or 4 years, she had to move out. And it was all because of that will, because it was a legal, contract. And again, the legal side of it, I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you what to do or say what to do, but you bring up a very good point. If that's your only living, will that you have, then,
you have to have a subsequent it's a subsequent document that is legal, that null and voids that one somehow.
Yes, as long as it's a what do you call it? Notarized, updated date, it would, it would have, higher value than that one. And that's what they would go with. So, but that's a good point. And I just think it's so that by talking about something happening to us and death and things like that, it makes you appreciate your life even more, because you're thinking, oh, you know what? I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that, but this is going to go to so-and-so. And when you really just focus and start looking at it, if something happens inside you, and everyone without fail has always said, I'm so glad I did this. I feel so much better. So I think it's taking care of that. Like we were talking about, all the little stuff that's going around in our mind in the back. We're taking care of something that we should be taking care of.
That is, and it's peaceful. Totally, like
Yes.
you're saying, it just gives that sense of accomplishment. And I think I remember it was Ann Landers or Dear Abby years ago, probably Ann Landers, but there was a story about a lady that had done that. She was, I guess, I don't know if she was single, but anyway, she had planned everything out. She had everything planned, and down to the dress she's going to wear, in the casket, and all of that was taken care of. All the details of her life, that for her end of life, were organized and taken care of, which gave her the freedom to go out and live her life. She didn't have to stress over what, all those details that other people, and what a freedom for her family and for her to just be able to, okay, I might live 20 more years, but I'm going to have a great time doing it. And all this stuff is in the works. And if that dress doesn't fit anymore, I'm going to get, you can, at least just change one little piece here and there.
Absolutely. That's right.
Overwhelm. And I love, I was probably in my 20s or 30s when I read that. And I was like, I want to be like that. I'm still not, I'm 70.
Yeah, but you have several books, so you're working, and you started the class, and I told you when you're ready, and your sister that when you're ready, you're welcome back whenever you're ready. So, but it takes time. But again, pat yourself on the back for what you have done in it. It's a start, and you're moving in the right direction.
Yes, thank you for that. And I just appreciate you so much, and I appreciate because it's a drudgery task. It's a harsh task, and you always have such a bright and light spirit, and easy to listen to and to be with and to hear. And I appreciate that so much about you, and that you've gotten
Thank you.
and that what you do on your show on Win Women, and we're gonna people need to find you. So Ann Cueva, Cueva.
Yes.
And how do they find you? Let's talk a little bit about that before we
Okay,
forget
sure.
everything.
It is it's Ann Cueva, and it's ANN, no E. Ann Cueva at me.com. And my website is timeisthekey.com. And on there you can purchase the book from there, or you can get it on Amazon, and it talks about the workshops on there. Or if you just have a question and you want to ask, you can also do that as well. There's also, for getting organized, there's a scorecard if you want to know where to get started. But do know that I'm going to tell you, with your paperwork. And then also, as you're getting your paperwork together, guess what? You're getting your information in one place that you can fill out your book. So it's a kind of like a win-win there as well. But yes, there's many things on there that I talk about. And I think that the reason I can talk about this is because I've lived it, and I've lived it with it completed, one side completed and one side not. And let me tell you, the side that was completed was much, much better to go through. And because you're in grief, you're going to have your own, grief way that you grieve. But this is just the paper side of it, the things you're going to need, or just, I've seen families just be torn apart because one person heard mom say she wanted to be cremated, and the other person said, I never heard her say that. That delays the funeral, it delays, the burial, and it just, to break up families over
Rifts
something
in the families,
simple.
exactly.
And it's not, sometimes it's not even over that. It's just little things. And if that can take the place of saying, no, look, it's in her writing and it's here, then that's just, to me, that I've done my job.
Well, it takes the emotion out of it. It's, it just takes the uncertainty out of it. There's no emotion. Mom said it. Yeah, I wish she hadn't. I wish she'd have said it this way. I wish she'd have done this. This is the way I want, but take yourself out of it. It's not about you, by the way.
Exactly. That's right.
So
yeah.
you brushed over your website pretty quickly. So time is the
Yes.
key.
Timeisthekey.com.
Timeisthekey.com. And where does that come from? So that's not that. I think that's you're organizing it from the
Right.
past.
Well, it's because a common denominator in everything that I do has to do with time. And like you were saying, I'll do it later or just for now. So I thought, you know what? Time is the key, because key is my logo. And it's just, I just thought, you know what? Time is the key of getting these things done and making sure, that we're putting things on our calendar to get things done, because life will pass you by if you don't have a plan. I know my sister and I, once a month, we always have something we're going to look forward to, even if it's just to go watch a sunset. It can, or go out to, play and dinner or whatever we want to do. So that's just something. And if I don't put it on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So just, the whole picture and the piece, because a lot of times people will say when I work with them, well, you're so calm about everything. I want what you have. And I said, well, first I've made the decision that if I have plenty of days where I'm upset but I will give myself like 10 minutes. I can cry, scream, do whatever I need to do. And then I go, you know what? I'm alive and I'm healthy, and there's more to this than whatever this current problem is. So I'm going to move on.
And on this side of the dirt, breathing free oxygen, I'm provided for.
Right.
And get upset over the stupidest things. So, really, most of the time they're.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And in the big scheme of eternity, we're a blip.
That's
and
right.
get upset. And we're using our blip and upset. That doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, one thing that we learned that, losing a child is the worst, just possible thing you can go through. And I had a choice. I could pull the covers up over my head or go on. And so, of course, I have other children and my husband and myself to live for. So I didn't want to live it curled up in a ball. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to live every day as if it's my last. last. And we're told to do that. We're told not to worry about tomorrow, but that's what I do. When I start getting upset about something, I think, if I'm going to die at 6 o'clock tonight, do I really want to spend my last few hours worrying about this? And it's just wonderful without even thinking about it, it goes away. It makes your big problem seem like nothing. So next time you're all stressed out with anything, just do that. Say, not to be morbid, but if today's my last day, how do I want to spend it? And I want my last day to be fun and upbeat, and how I can help other people, or, just fun, doing what I want to do, rather than being in
upset.
Yes.
Upset draws upset anyway. But one of the
Exactly.
things, if I've been thinking, I don't watch television, I don't watch the news, and I think my life is happier because of that. And if, oh my gosh, the world's going to end in 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, the world's going to end in 2 weeks. Or, and they spend 2 weeks cowering on the corner of the couch watching
Yes.
the doom clump coming, when I don't even know that
it's coming.
and I get to go out, and I'm giving as many hugs and as many smiles and as much light as I possibly can to everyone I meet.
Yes.
Will my last 2 weeks be better or worse than the one that is cowering in fear? And so that, to me, it's not even an option. I'm just like, I don't need to know all that stuff. I don't need to know. If I have an action step I need to take, I will do that. But
Right.
be prepared, not scared, is the way I started 2020. Be prepared, not scared.
I love that. Yes,
and
exactly.
just do and bless people and love people. And if you can, when the worst things are going on, and you go, may you be blessed, where I am is all I have anyway, I might as well accept it, because upset doesn't make this minute easier.
That's right.
If you're upset, it makes it harder. So
that's exactly right.
You can't think as clearly. So get over yourself.
Exactly.
Just thinking that I've got to, everything's got to be my way, and I'm upset.
Right.
You. I do I was telling my grandkids, nobody can hurt your feelings or make you upset without your permission. So you can, when you walk in that perspective and go, oh, I get a choice.
Yeah, that's
right. So this is a completely off the track conversation a little bit, but it's what
true.
You just said is, I get to choose. I put it on my calendar to go have a happy time with my sister. And guess what? We've had since 1970 an annual gathering of the girls with my sisters and my mom while she was here. And so, that dynamic has changed. We don't know what it looks like now, but we'll still do it.
Right. Exactly.
And we have those annual, at least, memories of
that are priceless. Just priceless. Yes.
Priceless. And you learn, you get to know some tidbits about the family you didn't know, and things like that in those conversations. And so I'm so grateful for you. I have extreme high respect for what you're doing and how you're doing it, and how you're kind and calm your demeanor as to kind of nudge us with the velvet boot.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And it's just, people laugh at me. They go, let me get this right. They said, you worked on paperwork for the past 20 something years. And how boring is that? How awful is that? And now you're promoting a book on if something happens to you. They go, what are you? And I said, well, you're picking all these subjects that are hard to deal with, And I said, well, that's the point. They're not hard once you do something about them. They don't have to be hard anymore. And that just kind of is what drives me, as to that there is a way. And
action is the antidote.
Right. And it's not what can you do.
Depression. Action is antidote to fear. Action, taking some form of action to a chaos. Action is the next right step. Take a step towards what you want, and
that's right.
And take the next step, and the next step. You don't have to know all the steps.
That's exactly. You don't have to know all the steps.
But sitting and wishing it was done is not working. That doesn't work.
Unfortunately.
There's no fairy godmothers, right?
No, there is not.
Although I thought about this with, really, I was like, okay, there's no fairy godmothers, and I'm trying to tell these 30 somethings this, and then I like, okay, but when they go into the bathroom, the toilet paper is always stocked, and so
that's funny.
There's always the thing, the basics, are done.
Yes.
So did I raise them thinking there was somebody else would provide? And I think maybe I'm guilty of that. We'll see.
Well, I think in a way we all are, because we just want that to be good. But
I
again,
just
I
want
think
it to be
spoils.
easy for the next person. But in my
Yes.
thought, I thought that having things done would make them want to have things done.
Right. Sure.
Now it really makes them entitled to want things to be done for them.
Yeah.
Whoops.
And that's why that stops after a certain point, it's like, now you show me what you learned type thing. But again, we're all different. We all process our feelings and everything in different ways. But I just think that's so important too. We all, no matter how we think or how we process situations or anything, you need to make a plan while you can. And you're giving a gift to not only to yourself, but to others. And I promise you, it brings more peace than it does being scared or icky feelings. It's something happens to make your life more beautiful, believe it or not, that you feel so blessed, and to just not have to know you have to do that anymore, or that you're
And
leaving
projecting. See, I think that this is where, in fact, I told my old grandson yesterday, I was like, what if you think about the secret of a lot of successful athletes and things, and he's quite taekwondo and all that, a little bit of martial arts. And I said, if you see yourself doing it and being there before you do it, that punch is going to be easier, better, more solid. And, it's a good practice. And so I think that if we can see that end point of the beautiful, the room is organized, the file cabinets, where are the scissors, where
right.
it is.
Yes.
And it's organized. And when you start seeing it, then honestly, I believe it starts drawing to you as well, as long as you're taking a positive action step.
That's right. And change is good. Change can be good. People are afraid of change, but like you say,
Change is inevitable. Misery is optional.
Yeah.
The only thing constant is change. I mean, there's a lot of colloquialisms and sayings around all that, right? But
yes,
it's the truth. There's nothing static. The time keeps on ticking, whether you like it or not.
Very true. Very
And
true.
it's right now, it's in July of 2024. It's ticking very, 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 very fast.
Yes, it is. I even told my husband, I said, oh my goodness, we'll have the Christmas tree up soon. It's going to
In January, I usually say, it's only 11 months till Christmas. And in the summer, I quit saying it. And all of a sudden I'm in October going 2 months to Christmas. So, I mean, it goes so fast nowadays. And I don't think it's just those old people, old people. I think it's for almost everybody. Honestly, I think this, the vibration of the earth is moving faster. An hour is still an hour, but the vibrations of our universe and our world is in the subtle side of moving really fast. And so it feels fast. It
is. And everyone's so busy and rushed and just cramming so much into a day, when you just need to simplify, and it makes a difference right there. But
less is more in the material world out there. Is we're so inundated, and now we've got instant Amazon tonight.
Oh my goodness.
And that's really a good thing in a lot of ways, in many ways.
Right. As a matter of fact,
used to.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness, you can have something. But when you said Amazon, I want to tell you something that I watched. This was about a year ago. I watched the CBS Sunday morning show, and did you know on Amazon that you can order a casket? They sell caskets on Amazon. It's called Titan Caskets. And this man, he did a beautiful segment on the show that I think the story is that a employee or a friend of his, she was young and her father had passed away, and they didn't have the money to pay for the casket. And so this man went and, they took care of that for her. And then he started thinking, there's got to be another way for these caskets. And so it's a whole thing on how you get the same quality casket, but you can go to Amazon and get it for, oh my goodness, a fourth of the price that you would normally pay. And I always tell the people, well, why would I go get a casket now? And I said, there's all kind of organizing ways you can store that casket. You can put your Christmas decorations in it and store it in the attic. And then when you need it,
the mummy case in the corner, of course.
Yes, exactly. Right. Put bookshelves in there. I mean, there were so many jokes about it. It became quite funny, but several people they've used that. And so that's
a great thing to know, because I do believe that industry, there's a lot of compassionate people there, but there is also, there's a lot of taking advantage of people in a time of desperate need. And,
Absolutely.
oh, but don't you think your mom would really like this gold inlay?
Oh, and of course you want the
and
best for your mother.
of
She
course
loves,
she deserves the best. Of course, we're going to be paying for it for the next 40 years. But anyway, so we all are on that, we know that happens, but
yeah.
I in good conscience, I could never sell.
Oh, I know. And there are
I'd be a
many,
poor.
yeah, there are many good ones out there, but that is how they make their money. And so again, if you fill out your book and you fill out your workbook, you could say, this is
Order
where I
from
want my
Titan.
casket ordered from. I've picked it out. This is the number, the color and everything, But again, and it helps you
You can actually put
financially. Like I
pictures now, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the cost of a funeral is what really shocks people. If it happens, someone loses somebody, and with one of my clients, for example, they were like, I cannot believe what I have to pay. And I said, it's because no one talks about it. And so that's why I think I
This
am
is an
so
incredibly important topic. Then
oh, it really
you are
is.
bringing it to light
Yes.
with light, because that's who you are.
Well,
And
thank you.
the show, it's time to, it always goes fast, but this is
Oh, I
fast.
know.
And
Yes,
so
yes. Well, I appreciate you
this is
having
Ann
me on.
Cueva with a timeisthekey.com.
Yes.
And you can find her, and we can find both of us on Win Win Women Network, TV network. And now I think we're on Audible and podcasts all over the place. I know that my show is anyway, but I believe Win Win Women is doing that as well now, which we're great.
Yes, they are. It's a great
And
platform. Great platform.
It is a great platform, and so much to share. And I believe we're in the right place at the right time, right? For such a time as this.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes.
So thank you so much, my sweet friend, for being here, for doing what you do, and for the book, Grief Without Chaos, Plan While You Can. It's a highly important message. And what I've learned over this, you're episode 18 of season 2, really. Wow.
Wow.
But it's not like I have a show anymore that I have to interview. I just get so engaged with people and loving.
Yes, it's so
this
true.
conversation. And I think that's my style, I guess.
And I wanted to thank you too for your, like you say, your smiles and your hugs and just the way you start out your show. And it's just so uplifting. And I think obviously the world needs a lot of that right now. So I appreciate you and what you do. And just so glad to have you as a friend in my life. I'm just really blessed, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so very much. And we're going to, we're here every week on Win Win Women platform, Charla Anderson's show, and your show again.
Yes, it's Prep Talk Custom Organizing, and it's on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. Eastern. Or, no, excuse me, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So
that's
yes.
early Pacific, isn't it? Okay.
Yes,
Well, listen,
that's why I live in the West, so I'm glad.
And thank you. I hope we'll do it again. And I'm so incredibly grateful. I think the recording button did go. And so
there you go. Third time's a charm.
This thing out soon and up and out. And thank you for being who you are in the world, and then especially right now for what you do for humanity. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Guys,
appreciate
always
you.
Remember to always choose joy.
Thank you.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show, encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.